she gave me something, I thought it was coke, but it wasn't. And then he gave me heroin and I was still sick. And he was like, I think she gave you fentanyl. So then he went and got fentanyl, and then the fentanyl is the only thing that made me not sick. I actually had a 4-bedroom house on the south side, and then I started to use drugs, and I started to smoke crack, and then my money just started going really fast.
This is Klamath Falls, the city of sunshine, a gateway to breathtaking beauty, home to a national park, cascading waterfalls, evergreen forests, and winding rivers. But beyond the postcard views, hidden in those same forests and scattered across city streets, lies a harsh truth: homelessness. The crisis took root here only a few years ago, yet it's grown into a stubborn problem, one the mayor still calls a top priority, but notoriously hard to solve.
They were going to wrongfully arrest me. And guess what they did? The bitches poked my ass. They saw poke. Yeah, we don't want to deal with that. Let's go remove somebody who might pass me. I'm going to future you, or vice versa. I don't care, but...
So, how does a place that shines as a sunny paradise confront an issue that casts such a long shadow? Let's step into the heart of Klamath Falls and uncover what's truly at stake. Klamath Falls, Oregon, the city of sunshine, is a slice of paradise where Upper Klamath Lake sparkles like a gem and rugged mountains call to hikers and dreamers alike. With just over 20,000 residents, this tight-knit town thrives on the grit of farmers, the flow of tourists, and the heartbeat of small businesses. But beneath the postcard beauty, a tougher reality is unfolding. Poverty grips hard here, leaving too many families stretched thin, fueling a homelessness crisis that may be quiet, but cuts painfully deep. In 2024, more than 100 people in Klamath County, most of them in Klamath Falls, were counted as homeless. Healthy Klamath Network. 2024. For a community this size, that number hits close to home. Single adults, overworked families, Native Americans facing steep inequities, and seniors on fixed incomes, all are part of this story. Oregon's larger cities carry thousands more. But in a place like Klamath Falls, every struggle feels personal. Unlike the visible tent encampments in Portland, here homelessness hides in lakeside camps, parked cars, or motels, where people cling to fragile stability. This isn't the loud crisis of big cities. It's a quiet ache woven into the fabric of a town known for its heart. The economy, tied to seasonal jobs like fruit picking or guiding visitors, leaves little margin for error. With only limited shelter options, choices for those without a roof are scarce. And the true scope, people couch surfing or barely scraping by, likely runs far deeper than official counts. In a place so proud and resilient, how does a crisis like this take root in such fertile ground?
I have a lot of goals. I would like to get me a job, and and start working, and doing working. Really, I would like to work. I would love to work, give me a job for real, because I don't have no reason not to work.
Housing has become the steepest hill to climb in Klamath Falls. Rent for a simple one-bedroom in Oregon is soaring out of reach. And in a small town like this, the impact hits harder than ever. Most households here are barely scraping by, and when every paycheck is already stretched thin, one rent hike or surprise expense can mean game over. No home, no safety net, no stability. Oregon faces a statewide shortage of affordable housing, and Klamath Falls is caught in the squeeze. But it's not just sky-high rents. Investors are circling, snapping up properties to flip into vacation rentals or sitting on empty lots waiting for prices to climb. That leaves fewer homes for the people who actually live and work here. For many, the dream of having a stable place to call home feels like it's slipping further away each year. That leaves fewer homes for regular folks who just want a roof over their heads without going broke. Programs like Section 8 are supposed to bridge the gap, but wait lists drag on for years, offering little hope. If you're making minimum wage, slinging coffee or stocking shelves, you're barely covering the basics, let alone saving for the unexpected. The math just doesn't work, and that's why homelessness in America keeps spreading, even in small towns like this one. The housing crunch here feels like a slow-motion train wreck. Families are crammed into tiny apartments, couch hopping with friends, or living out of their cars, situations that don't always show up in the numbers, but scream desperation. The system wasn't built for the people who need it most. Government aid sounds promising, but when it's stretched this thin, it barely scratches the surface. In a place like Klamath Falls, with its sunny skies and close-knit spirit, you'd think everyone could find a place to call home. Instead, the market feels like a locked door, and too many are stuck outside, wondering how it came to this. So, if housing's out of reach, what else is driving people to the edge in this little town? In Klamath Falls, mental health struggles and addiction are like a riptide, dragging people under and refusing to let go. Across Oregon, about 30–40% of homeless individuals wrestle with conditions like depression, PTSD, or opioid dependency HUD 2023, and this small town is no exception. These challenges don't just disrupt lives, they unravel them, turning a rough patch into a freefall. With just 21,934 residents, resources here are as scarce as rain in the high desert. Getting help often feels like chasing a mirage. Klamath Basin Behavioral Health is the community's main lifeline, but it's stretched thin, with treatment wait lists running for months. For someone battling addiction or mental illness, that kind of wait can feel like a lifetime time that many simply don't have. Without timely support, the cycle becomes relentless. A mental health crisis can cost someone their job, and without income, rent turns into a distant dream. Before long, the streets become reality, where the daily grind of survival only tightens addiction's grip and deepens despair. Unlike urban hubs such as Portland, with their networks of clinics and rehab centers, Klamath Falls is a rural outpost with very little to offer. The shortage of specialized facilities leaves people stranded, fighting battles they are ill-equipped to win. Local voices echo this frustration, with Herald and News 2024 reporting desperate calls for accessible care that simply isn't there. The absence of robust treatment isn't just a gap, it's a chasm, swallowing the hopes of recovery. This isn't just about individual struggles. It's a systemic failure fueling homelessness in America. Mental health issues and addiction don't just push people over the edge, they pin them there, trapping them in a loop where each day on the street makes healing harder. In a town framed by the beauty of Upper Klamath Lake and evergreen forests, the irony is stark. The tools to escape this spiral are missing. The question isn't only how to help, but how a small community like Klamath Falls can break the cycle when its resources are paper thin. What will it take to give people even a fighting chance to climb out of the darkness? Culturally sensitive resources like counseling rooted in tribal traditions or efforts to bridge racial gaps in jobs and housing are hard to come by. For many, this lack of tailored support means carrying invisible scars that weigh just as heavily as the loss of shelter itself. A native elder in Klamath Falls once described it as trying to heal in a house with no walls, The community's wounds are real, but the protection and tools for recovery are missing. These gaps leave people caught between two worlds, one of immense pride in heritage and resilience, and another of relentless struggle against poverty and exclusion. In a city where everyone seems to know one another, the silence around these hardships can make the isolation even sharper. Homelessness here isn't just about tents tucked into forests or cars parked by the lake. It's about the deep inequities that shape who falls first and who struggles longest to climb back. The question remains, how can Klamath Falls, with its spirit of community, confront these hidden scars and ensure no neighbor is left behind? For those caught in homelessness, the absence of support feels like trying to climb out of a pit with no rope. Solving this crisis requires more than building houses. It demands reckoning with a past that still shapes the present. Stolen lands, broken treaties, and generations of inequity continue to push Native Americans and other communities of color to the margins. In a town steeped in pride and resilience, the real call is to create a safety net that both honors cultural roots and dismantles systemic barriers. Homelessness in America festers where history's scars are ignored, but Klamath Falls has the chance to rewrite that story. By investing in affordable housing, culturally grounded programs, and genuine opportunities, this city can craft a future where everyone has a place under its sunny skies. The question is, can a small town confront a crisis entangled in centuries of injustice? The shortage isn't just about numbers, it's about what's missing behind those doors. Wraparound services like counseling, job training, or addiction treatment, tools that could help people rebuild, are nearly non-existent in Klamath Falls. For someone battling depression or trying to get sober, the absence of these supports means falling through cracks that only widen with time. Shelters that do exist run on shoestring budgets, staffed by people stretched thin, doing more with less every day. The result? A crisis hidden in plain sight. Cars parked overnight in grocery store lots, families splitting motel rooms by the week. Veterans and seniors quietly tucked into tents near Upper Klamath Lake. These aren't the loud tent cities of San Francisco or Portland. They're quieter, scattered, easier to overlook, but no less devastating. Homelessness in America looks different in small towns, but the pain is the same. The question is, how long can a community so proud of its neighborly spirit allow its most vulnerable to slip through with so little safety net beneath them? The problem goes far beyond a shortage of beds. Imagine trying to rebuild your life without job training, legal aid to fight an eviction, or even a reliable place to eat. In Klamath Falls, those supports are almost non-existent. Urban centers like Portland or Eugene can lean on networks of nonprofits and agencies, but here the safety net is threadbare. The Klamath Health Partnership and a few small groups do what they can, but they're running on fumes. Local chatter in 2024 captured the frustration. People notice tents cropping up in public spaces, but with shelters full and services scarce, where are folks supposed to go? It's a vicious cycle. Without housing or resources, getting back on your feet feels like chasing a mirage. Rural homelessness in America is its own trap. No big city budgets, no sprawling networks, yet the need is just as urgent. And when the system shrugs and says, figure it out, people don't just fall through the cracks, they get stuck in them. The question for a town this size isn't just how to add more beds, but how to build a real lifeline, one that offers stability, dignity, and a genuine way forward. Can Klamath Falls rise to meet a challenge that seems stacked against it? The fallout didn't end with lost jobs. Shelters, already stretched thin, had to cut capacity to follow distancing rules, leaving more people to sleep in cars, campgrounds, or improvised tents along the lake. Federal aid, like rental assistance and stimulus checks, offered brief relief, but in rural counties like Klamath, the money dried up fast and never matched the scale of need. For families barely hanging on, the pandemic was less a storm that passed and more a flood that washed away what little security they had. The scars remain visible today. Small businesses never reopened. Service jobs came back slower and with fewer hours. And rising costs for groceries, gas, and rent keep squeezing households to the edge. For those who slipped into homelessness during those years, climbing back has been brutal. Without steady work, reliable shelter, or accessible healthcare, many remain stuck in survival mode. COVID-19 didn't just expose vulnerabilities in Klamath Falls, it widened them, leaving a town famous for its sunshine, still shadowed by a crisis that refuses to fade. The virus didn't just hit wallets, it struck the most vulnerable hardest. Those already homeless faced impossible odds, with no safe spaces to quarantine and little access to testing. The Klamath Health Partnership 2024 reported outbreaks rippling through this community, but the tools to respond were paper thin. Shelters, already scarce in a rural hub like Klamath Falls, were forced to slash beds to comply with distancing rules, pushing more people into cold parks, crowded cars, or fragile camps on the city's fringes. The pandemic's mental toll was just as fierce. Isolation and economic despair drove some deeper into substance use, tightening a cycle where homelessness and addiction feed off each other. In a town where mental health care is stretched thin, with Klamath Basin Behavioral Health struggling to keep pace, these challenges widened into a chasm. COVID-19 didn't create homelessness in Klamath Falls, but it took a manageable fracture and blew it wide open. The scars, joblessness, evictions, untreated trauma still linger, making recovery feel like climbing a mountain in a storm. Today, as the city grapples with 107 homeless individuals in 2024 Healthy Klamath Network, 2024, the pandemic's shadow looms large, a reminder that crises don't end when the headlines fade. For small towns like Klamath Falls, the question is clear. How do you mend wounds this deep when the ground beneath you is still trembling? Let's get real. Homelessness in Klamath Falls isn't just a tally of 107 people or a stark 23.2% poverty rate, Healthy Klamath Network, 2024. It's about human beings fighting to stay afloat in a system that keeps failing them. Homelessness in America isn't only a big city issue. It's woven into the fabric of small towns like this one, where the community spirit runs deep but resources are stretched paper thin. Klamath Falls, with its tight-knit heart, finds itself caught in a bind. Too few shelters, not enough mental health clinics, and a severe shortage of affordable homes. Here's the deal. This town has the grit to turn things around. Just look at Housing First, which slashed chronic homelessness in Utah by an incredible 91% between 2005 and 2015. That kind of blueprint could work here if Klamath Falls doubles down on building homes and strengthening wraparound services. And it's not just about funding, it's about shifting the mindset. People without homes aren't strangers to ignore. They're neighbors, part of the same community that cheers under Friday night lights and gathers for lakefront festivals. Supporting groups like Klamath Works or advocating for smarter local policies could spark the kind of change that ripples across the whole town. This isn't about stacking up more statistics. It's about putting faces to those numbers. Klamath Falls has a chance to prove how a small town can tackle a massive challenge, not by turning away, but by stepping up. By standing behind nonprofits, pushing for policy changes, and treating people with dignity, this city can live up to its title as the City of Sunshine. What would it mean for Klamath Falls to become a beacon of hope, showing that no one gets left in the shadows? Maybe it's time to find out in the heart of Klamath Falls, where the sun shines over 300 days a year, the homelessness crisis casts a stubborn shadow. With 107 individuals living without a home in 2024 Healthy Klamath Network. 2024. This town of just 21,000, 934 faces, a challenge that feels outsized. It's one chapter in the larger story of homelessness in America. But here, every number carries the face of a neighbor. Soaring rents, entrenched poverty, mental health struggles, racial inequities, and a shortage of shelters stack the odds against the vulnerable, while the lingering fallout of COVID-19 makes each hurdle even higher. This isn't just data. It's a wake-up call for a community proud of its tight-knit spirit. The path forward demands courage and commitment. Local heroes like Klamath Works and Klamath Health Partnership are already rolling up their sleeves, offering transitional housing and health services despite limited resources. But real change requires more investments in affordable housing, robust mental health care, and jobs that pay enough to cover rent and dignity. Oregon's 110,000 unit affordable housing deficit, Oregon Housing and Community Services, 2023 looms large here, and unless it's addressed, the cycle of homelessness will grind on. Yet this fight is about more than money. It's about heart. It's about seeing those on the margins not as problems to sidestep, but as neighbors to embrace. Picture Klamath Falls, where Veterans Memorial Park is alive, with families enjoying sunny afternoons, not serving as a last refuge for survival. That vision isn't a fantasy, it's within reach if residents, leaders, and organizations choose to rally together. Homelessness in America thrives where apathy takes root, but Klamath Falls can be different. This City of Sunshine has the chance to show that compassion and grit can light the way. The question is, will it rise to the challenge?